The viewport of New Geneva Station stretched across the entire diplomatic wing, offering a breathtaking view of the Kepler Nebula's swirling colors. Commander Elena Vasquez stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the alien ships approach through the cosmic dust. 3 vessels moved in perfect formation, sleek, predatory shapes that seemed to cut through space itself. She had been expecting this visit for months. The reports from the outer colonies had been troubling. Human settlements were expanding faster than ever before, and the established galactic powers were growing nervous. Elena knew that today would change everything. The main doors to the diplomatic chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Heavy footsteps echoed across the polished floor as the alien delegation entered. Leading them was Overlord Thex, his massive reptilian frame covered in scales that shifted from deep green to black depending on the light. Each scale was perfectly formed, like natural armor that had been crafted over millions of years of evolution. His yellow eyes held the cold intelligence of a creature born to rule. Behind him walked the Veil Walker representative. The crystalline being moved without sound, its transparent body refracting the station's lights into rainbow patterns that danced across the walls. It had no face that humans could recognize, just a constantly shifting geometric structure that somehow conveyed emotion through color and movement. Right now, those colors spoke of barely contained impatience. The third member of the delegation was a Goliath enforcer, standing nearly 3 meters tall. Its gray skin looked like living stone, and its 4 arms ended in hands that could crush steel. The Goliaths were known throughout the galaxy as the perfect soldiers, strong, disciplined, and absolutely loyal to their superiors. This one wore the markings of a high-ranking military officer. Elena turned from the viewport and offered a diplomatic smile. "Overlord Thex, welcome to New Geneva Station. I trust your journey was comfortable." Thex did not return the greeting. Instead, he pulled out a small device that projected a 3-dimensional map of human space. Red markers indicated every human colony, research station, and outpost beyond Earth's solar system. There were dozens of them, scattered across a region of space that had been claimed by humanity over the past 50 years. "Commander Vasquez," Thex began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been refused. "We are here to discuss a matter of great importance to galactic stability. Your species has been expanding at an alarming rate. You have established settlements in regions that have been under triarchy protection for over 2,000 years." Elena kept her expression neutral, though inside she felt a familiar anger building. The same anger that had driven humanity to reach for the stars in the first place. "I was not aware that empty space required protection, Overlord Thex. Our colonies have been established on uninhabited worlds, following all galactic protocols." The Veil Walker's form shifted to a harsh red color, and its voice came through the translation device as a series of harmonic tones. "Protocols established by species far older and wiser than yours. You humans think in terms of decades. We think in terms of millennia. Your rapid expansion disrupts carefully maintained balances." The Goliath enforcer stepped forward, its massive frame casting a shadow over Elena. "The Triarchy Council has reached a decision. All human settlements beyond your home system must be abandoned within 48 standard hours. Your people will be relocated to designated agricultural worlds where they can contribute to galactic society in more appropriate ways." Elena felt the blood drain from her face, but she kept her voice steady. "And if we refuse this generous offer?" Thex's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Then corrective action will be necessary. Your species possesses primitive kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion systems. Amusing in their own way, but hardly a threat to civilizations that have mastered plasma energy and faster-than-light combat capabilities." He gestured to the map, and the projection zoomed in on several human colonies. "Your defensive capabilities are well documented. Metal projectiles fired from chemical explosions. Nuclear weapons that damage as much as they destroy. Energy shields that can barely deflect our weakest weapons. The Triarchy has been patient with humanity because you seemed harmless. That patience has limits." The Veil Walker added its harmonic voice to the conversation. "Warfare among the Triarchy species follows established protocols. We engage in honorable combat, testing our technologies against worthy opponents. It is a dance as old as spaceflight itself. Humans do not understand this dance. You fight with the desperation of primitives." Elena walked slowly around the projection, studying the red markers that represented millions of human lives. Each colony was home to people who had left Earth seeking freedom, opportunity, or simply the chance to see what lay beyond their home world. Farmers, miners, researchers, and explorers who had dared to dream of life among the stars. 48 hours, she repeated softly. To abandon 50 years of human expansion. To give up the dreams of 8 million colonists. To accept that humanity's place in the galaxy is whatever you decide it should be. Precisely, Thex replied. We are pleased that you understand the situation. The Triarchy values cooperation over conflict. Your species will be well cared for in the agricultural sectors. Elena turned back to the viewport, where human ships could be seen moving through the shipping lanes. Cargo vessels, passenger liners, and the occasional patrol craft going about their daily business. To the alien delegation, these ships represented a primitive species playing at spaceflight. They had no idea what they were really looking at. I will need to consult with Earth Command, Elena said finally. This decision affects all of humanity. Of course, Thex agreed. You have 48 hours to provide your answer. We will return then to begin coordinating the relocation process. The alien delegation turned and left the chamber with the same ceremonial precision they had used to enter. Elena waited until their ships had disappeared into hyperspace before moving to her private office. There, hidden behind a panel that looked like decorative wall art, was a quantum communicator that officially did not exist. She activated the device and waited for the connection to establish. When the familiar voice of Earth Command answered, Elena spoke 4 words that would change the galaxy forever. The gloves are coming off. Initiate Protocol 7. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in a facility that appeared on no official maps, General Harrison Cross walked through corridors carved from solid stone. The emergency lights cast long shadows as his boots echoed against the polished floor. He had received Elena's message 30 minutes ago, and now everything humanity had worked toward for 3 decades was about to be put to the test. The elevator descended for what felt like forever before finally opening into a circular chamber. 12 people sat around a table made of black metal, each representing a different aspect of humanity's hidden preparations. These were the Shadow Council members, and most of Earth's government had no idea they existed. Ladies and gentlemen, Cross began, his voice carrying the weight of command earned through 40 years of military service. The moment we have been preparing for has arrived. The Triarchy has given us 48 hours to abandon everything beyond Earth. Admiral Chin, representing the Hidden Fleet, leaned forward. How much do they know about our real capabilities? Nothing, Cross replied. They still think we are using chemical rockets and metal bullets. They have no idea what we have actually built out there. Dr. Sarah Kim stood up from her chair. She was a small woman with graying hair, but her eyes held the intensity of someone who had spent her entire career pushing the boundaries of what was possible. As head of the Prometheus division, she knew secrets that would terrify both humans and aliens. 30 years ago, when we first encountered alien technology, everyone wanted to copy it, she began. We took a different approach. We studied the mathematics behind their science. We learned how they think about physics, energy, and space itself. Then we asked a simple question. What if they are wrong about the limitations? She activated a holographic display that showed the basic structure of alien energy weapons. The Saurians believe that plasma weapons cannot exceed certain power levels because of heat buildup. The Veil Walkers think energy shields must consume massive amounts of power because that is how their ancestors designed them. The Goliaths accept that faster-than-light travel requires specific rare materials because no one ever questioned it. The hologram shifted to show human modifications of the same technology. We redesigned everything from the ground up. Our plasma weapons use cooling systems the aliens never imagined. Our shields run on power sources they think are impossible. Our ships travel faster than light using materials we can manufacture in any basic laboratory. General Martinez, who commanded the Colonial Defense Forces, smiled grimly. So when they scan our colonies, what do they see? Exactly what we want them to see, Dr. Kim replied. Mining equipment that is actually camouflaged weapon systems. Research stations that appear to be studying stars but are really targeting computers for weapons that could destroy planets. Cargo ships that look primitive but carry enough firepower to level entire alien fleets. As the Shadow Council continued their meeting, coded signals began transmitting across human space. On the farming world of New Harvest, Tom Bradley was checking his crop irrigation systems when his communicator buzzed with an incoming message. To anyone else it looked like a routine update about grain prices. But Tom had been waiting for this message for 15 years. He walked to his barn and pressed his hand against what appeared to be a normal wall panel. The wall slid aside, revealing a control room filled with military displays and targeting computers. Hidden beneath his wheat fields were missile launchers capable of destroying ships in orbit. Tom was not just a farmer. He was a retired military officer who had volunteered to spend his remaining years as a guardian of human space. Across the colony, dozens of other farmers were activating similar hidden facilities. Within an hour, New Harvest had transformed from a peaceful agricultural world into a fortress bristling with weapons the aliens could not detect or understand. On the merchant vessel Golden Promise, Captain Lisa Park received her orders while trading with an alien station in the Vega system. Her ship appeared to be an old cargo hauler, barely worth the aliens' attention. The Saurian customs officials had inspected it many times and found nothing but farm equipment and manufactured goods. They had never looked closely enough to notice that the farm equipment could be rapidly assembled into advanced weapons systems, or that the ship's power core was actually a military-grade fusion reactor disguised as an inefficient chemical engine. Captain Park had been flying this route for 8 years, gathering intelligence on alien patrol schedules and defense capabilities. She sent a message to nearby alien traffic control, reporting engine troubles that would require her to remain in the system for repairs. The aliens acknowledged her message with polite concern, never suspecting that she was really calling in other disguised human warships to converge on their position. In a classroom on the research station Galileo, Mrs. Thompson was teaching a group of children about Earth's history when her tablet chimed with a lesson plan update. The children continued working on their assignments while she quietly uploaded tactical data to the station's defense network. They thought she was just their teacher, but Mrs. Thompson had once been one of Earth's top military strategists. The research station itself appeared to be studying the gravitational effects of a nearby black hole. The massive sensor arrays and computing facilities were impressive enough to earn respectful recognition from alien scientists who occasionally visited. They never realized that the same computers mapping gravitational fields could calculate firing solutions for weapons hidden throughout the station's structure. Similar scenes played out across 50 star systems as humanity's greatest deception began to unfold. Colonists who had lived peaceful lives for decades revealed themselves as soldiers in disguise. Scientists working on seemingly harmless research projects started preparing weapons that existed only in alien nightmares. Merchants and traders who had spent years earning alien trust began moving into positions where that trust could be used against their former customers. General Cross looked around the table at his fellow Shadow Council members. Initiate Protocol 7. It is time to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. The war was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they had awakened. Beacon Station hung in the darkness between 2 star systems, its lights twinkling like a small city floating in space. For over a century, it had served as neutral ground where different species could meet safely. The station's massive structure contained diplomatic quarters, trade centers, and defense systems that were supposedly controlled by an independent council representing all galactic civilizations. Commander Elena Vasquez arrived 12 hours before the deadline, her shuttle docking at the diplomatic bay with practiced precision. She wore her dress uniform, the dark blue fabric decorated with the simple rank insignia that aliens had learned to recognize as human military authority. To anyone watching, she appeared calm and resigned, like a defeated commander coming to surrender. The Triarchy delegation arrived exactly on schedule, their 3 ships taking formation around the station in a clear display of military superiority. Overlord Thex emerged from the lead vessel with the same confidence he had shown at New Geneva Station, followed by the crystalline Veil Walker and the towering Goliath Enforcer. They expected this meeting to be a formality, a chance to accept humanity's surrender with appropriate ceremony. The docking bay they entered was different from their previous encounter. Where before there had been polite diplomatic protocols, now the bay was sealed behind heavy blast doors. Armed human guards stood at attention, their weapons clearly visible. The aliens noticed the change but assumed it was simply humanity's attempt to maintain dignity in defeat. Elena waited for them in the main conference room, standing at the head of a table that held documents they expected to be surrender agreements. The viewport behind her showed the peaceful vastness of space, with several ships moving in the distance like tiny points of light. Overlord Thex, Elena began, her voice carrying a tone the aliens had not heard before. Thank you for coming. I have an announcement to make regarding humanity's response to your ultimatum. Thex settled his massive frame into a chair designed to accommodate his reptilian physiology. We are pleased that humanity has chosen wisdom over foolishness. The relocation process will begin immediately, and your people will be well cared for in their new homes. Elena remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back in a military posture that seemed more threatening than respectful. You gave us 48 hours to retreat from space we have legally claimed and colonized. You demanded that we abandon the homes and dreams of 8 million human beings because your ancient treaties decided our fate before we even knew you existed. The Veil Walker's crystalline form shifted to colors that indicated impatience. The decision has been made, Commander. We did not come here to debate the wisdom of the Triarchy Council. Elena nodded slowly as if considering their words. Then something changed in her expression, like a mask falling away to reveal the face beneath. When she spoke again, her voice was cold as the vacuum outside. You gave us 48 hours to retreat, she said. We are giving you 48 minutes to withdraw from human space. All of it. The silence in the room was complete. The three aliens stared at her as if she had spoken in an unknown language. The concept of humans making demands of the Triarchy was so foreign to their thinking that they could not immediately process what they had heard. Thex was the first to react, his yellow eyes narrowing with what might have been amusement. Commander Vasquez, I believe the stress of your situation has affected your judgment. Perhaps you do not understand what you are saying. I understand perfectly, Elena replied. You have 47 minutes to begin withdrawing all Triarchy military vessels from space claimed by humanity. After that deadline, we will consider any alien warship in our territory to be hostile. The Goliath Enforcer rose to its full height, its four arms moving in a gesture of intimidation that had terrified countless species throughout the galaxy. You threaten us with primitive weapons and chemical rockets? Your entire fleet could not damage a single Triarchy vessel. Elena touched a control on the table and the room's main display activated. It showed a tactical view of the space around Beacon Station, with dozens of ships marked as civilian traffic moving through the area. As they watched, the display updated with new information about each vessel. Computer, identify all ships within scanning range, Elena commanded. The station's artificial intelligence responded in a calm, electronic voice. 43 vessels detected. 17 are confirmed alien military or civilian craft. 26 vessels are registered as human civilian merchants and cargo haulers. Elena smiled, and there was nothing diplomatic about the expression. Computer, show true identification for all human vessels in this area. The display changed dramatically. What had appeared to be harmless merchant ships suddenly showed their real nature. Heavy weapon systems, military-grade shields, and power signatures that far exceeded anything the aliens thought humans possessed. The cargo haulers were revealed as disguised warships, and the merchant fleet became an armada that surrounded the Triarchy delegation. Thex stood abruptly, his scales shifting to the darker colors that indicated anger and threat. This is impossible. Our intelligence reports show no such capabilities among human forces. Your intelligence reports showed you what we wanted you to see, Elena replied. For 30 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. Every merchant ship that traded in your ports, every research station you ignored, every mining colony you dismissed as primitive, was part of a deception so complete that you never suspected the truth. The Veil Walker's form was cycling through colors rapidly, indicating severe distress. You are bluffing. No human technology can threaten Triarchy vessels. Elena touched another control, and her voice was broadcast throughout the station and to all ships in the area. HMS Defiance, you have authorization to demonstrate human capabilities. Target the Saurian battle cruiser Dominance. Show them what our primitive weapons can actually do. In the distance, one of the disguised human ships powered up weapons that should not have existed. The Saurian battle cruiser, confident in shields that had never failed against any known weapon, did not even attempt evasive maneuvers. The human weapon fired once. There was no dramatic explosion, no visible beam of energy. The Saurian ship simply ceased to exist, its molecular structure disrupted at the atomic level by technology that bypassed every defense the aliens understood. Thex stared at the empty space where his flagship had been, his reptilian brain struggling to comprehend what he had witnessed. Impossible, he whispered. Elena walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars that no longer belonged to the Triarchy alone. You mistook our restraint for weakness. You confused our patience with fear. You thought our diplomacy meant we could not fight. You were wrong on all counts. She activated the station's communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies used by galactic civilization. Her message was simple and direct. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Human Colonial Defense Force. The Triarchy has demanded that humanity abandon all territory beyond Earth. We refuse. Humanity will not retreat. Any alien military vessel found in human-claimed space after 12 hours from this transmission will be considered hostile and will be destroyed. This is your only warning. The war had begun. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main viewport. His ship looked like any other human cargo vessel from the outside, with dulled metal plating and the worn appearance of a ship that had spent years hauling goods between star systems. The Triarchy had seen thousands of ships just like it, never suspecting what really lay beneath the disguised exterior. "Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Chen from the navigation station. "Chrysalis Prime system coming up." Jake nodded, his eyes focused on the tactical display. Chrysalis Prime was the crown jewel of Veilwalker civilization, a world where their crystalline species manufactured the advanced technology that kept their empire running. Massive orbital factories surrounded the planet like glittering jewelry, producing everything from starship components to the energy crystals that powered Veilwalker society. "Remember, we are just another cargo hauler making a routine delivery," Jake said to his crew. "Act bored, act tired, act like you have done this run 1,000 times before." The Defiance emerged from hyperspace among a stream of legitimate cargo ships, all following the established shipping lanes that led to Chrysalis Prime's orbital stations. Jake's communications officer received the standard greeting from Veilwalker Traffic Control, a series of harmonic tones that the translation computer converted into polite instructions about docking procedures and cargo inspection schedules. "Cargo Vessel Earth 779, you are cleared for approach to Station Gamma," came the translated voice. "Please transmit your cargo manifest and prepare for routine inspection." Jake smiled coldly as his crew sent false documents showing a cargo hold full of rare earth minerals that the Veilwalkers used in their manufacturing processes. The inspection would show exactly what the aliens expected to see, because humanity had learned to fool their sensors years ago. As the Defiance moved through the crowded space around Chrysalis Prime, Jake studied the orbital factories through his disguised sensors. Each facility was a work of art, crystalline structures that caught and reflected the system's twin suns in patterns of breathtaking beauty. They were also completely undefended, because the Veilwalkers had never imagined that anyone would attack a manufacturing center. "Beginning cargo release," Jake announced quietly. "Deploy the swarm." Deep in the Defiance's cargo bay, containers that appeared to hold mining equipment opened to reveal something far more dangerous. Millions of microscopic devices, each no larger than a grain of sand, began flowing out of the ship through carefully hidden ports. To any observer, they looked like normal space dust, the kind of debris that accumulated around any busy star system. The nanoscale weapons moved with purpose, carried by tiny thrusters and guided by artificial intelligence programs that had been designed for one specific task. They spread throughout the orbital manufacturing complex like an invisible plague, attaching themselves to critical systems and beginning their work. Jake watched his tactical display as the tiny machines reached their targets. "Initiate Phase 2, he ordered. Throughout the orbital factories, the nanoscale weapons began to dismantle key components from the inside. Power conduits failed as their internal structures were systematically dissolved. Computer systems crashed when their memory cores were reduced to their basic atomic components. Life support systems stopped working as their filters were destroyed at the molecular level. The Veilwalkers noticed the problems slowly at first. A few systems going offline could be explained by normal maintenance issues. But as more and more critical infrastructure failed, panic began to spread through the orbital complex. "Emergency broadcasts coming from multiple stations," reported the communications officer. "They are calling for immediate assistance. Complete system failures across all manufacturing facilities." Jake nodded with satisfaction. "Take us out of the system. Standard cargo hauler speed, nothing suspicious. Let them think this was some kind of accident." The Defiance joined the stream of ships leaving Chrysalis Prime, just another unremarkable cargo vessel finishing its business. Behind them, the most advanced manufacturing complex in Veilwalker space was slowly dying as billions of microscopic weapons continued their invisible destruction. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of Triarchy space, Colonel Maria Santos crouched in a rocky outcropping overlooking the fortress world of Iron Gate. The planet was a monument to Goliath military pride, its surface covered with massive stone fortifications that had never been successfully attacked in over 1,000 years of warfare. "Status report," Maria whispered into her communicator, her voice barely audible even to her own team. "All squads in position," came the reply from Sergeant Rodriguez. "Electronic warfare package is ready for deployment." Maria studied the fortress through her enhanced vision scope. The Goliaths had built their defenses according to principles that had served them well against other alien species. Thick walls, overlapping fields of fire, and a command structure that relied on constant communication between different levels of the military hierarchy. "Begin Operation Silent Thunder," Maria ordered. Her teams did not attack the fortress directly. Instead, they deployed jammers that blocked specific frequencies used by Goliath communications equipment. The devices were small and well hidden, designed to create dead zones where Goliath commanders could not contact their subordinates. Within hours, the carefully organized fortress began to fall apart from within. Goliath officers, unable to reach their troops, assumed that subordinates were ignoring orders. Lower-ranking soldiers, cut off from their commanders, believed that their leaders had abandoned them or been killed by enemy infiltrators. The Goliath military culture had no mechanisms for dealing with communication breakdowns. Their rigid hierarchy depended on absolute obedience and constant contact between command levels. When that contact was severed, the entire system collapsed into paranoia and mistrust. "Fortress Commander Thrak is demanding immediate contact with all sector leaders," reported Maria's intelligence specialist, who was monitoring Goliath communications. "When he cannot reach them, he is declaring them traitors and ordering their arrest." Maria watched through her scope as Goliath soldiers began fighting each other in the fortress courtyards. Units that had served together for decades turned their weapons on former comrades, convinced that treachery was spreading through their ranks like a disease. The humans had not fired a single shot, but the strongest fortress in Goliath space was destroying itself from within. This was how humanity fought wars. Not with grand gestures or honorable single combat, but with patience, intelligence, and an understanding of their enemy's weaknesses that the aliens had never suspected. The Triarchy was learning that their new enemy did not follow the established rules of galactic warfare. They were beginning to realize that this might be why humanity was going to win. Admiral Elena Vasquez walked through the corridors of the UES Prometheus, her footsteps echoing against walls that seemed to pulse with barely contained energy. The massive ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, part fortress, part embassy, and part symbol of humanity's new position among the stars. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the lights of dozens of alien vessels maintaining respectful distances from humanity's newest creation. 18 months had passed since the first shots of the war, and the galaxy looked very different now. The Great Triarchy Alliance had crumbled like a house built on sand. The Saurian Empire, the Veilwalker Confederation, and the Goliath Republic still existed as separate powers, but they no longer dared to work together. Each species now watched the others with suspicion, wondering if their former allies might be secretly cooperating with the humans. Elena entered the main conference room where 5 alien delegates waited nervously at a circular table. These were representatives of the minor species that had lived under Triarchy protection for centuries. The ethereal bird people with their delicate feathered wings. The amphibious tidewalkers with their blue-green skin that glistened under the artificial lights. The insect-like hive speakers whose compound eyes reflected everything in multiple images. "Welcome aboard the Prometheus," Elena said, taking her seat at the table. "I understand you have requested this meeting to discuss protection agreements." The lead ethereal delegate, a creature named Wind Through Stars, spoke in the musical tones of his species. "Admiral Vasquez, our worlds are no longer safe. The Saurians demand tribute we cannot pay. The Veilwalkers threaten to cut off our trade routes. The Goliaths speak of conscripting our young people for their military forces." Elena listened carefully as each delegate described the chaos that had followed the Triarchy's collapse. Without the stability of the old alliance, the major powers were acting like competing warlords, each trying to grab as much territory and resources as possible before their rivals could stop them. "What exactly are you asking of humanity?" Elena asked. A Tidewalker delegate leaned forward, his webbed hands pressed flat against the table. "We offer our worlds as protectorates under human authority. We will provide resources, scientific knowledge, and manufacturing capabilities in exchange for protection from the major powers." Elena considered their words carefully. This was not the first such request humanity had received. Dozens of minor species had approached human representatives, all seeking the same thing: protection from the predators who no longer feared the old rules. "Humanity did not fight this war to build an empire," Elena said finally. "We fought to ensure that no one could force us to abandon our homes and dreams. However, we will not stand by while stronger powers prey upon the weak." She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of galactic politics. Human space was marked in blue, clearly defined and absolutely secure. Around it, the territories of various alien species formed a complex pattern of alliances, neutral zones, and contested areas. "We will establish defense agreements with any species that requests our protection," Elena announced. In return, you will maintain your independence and sovereignty. We ask only that you do not allow your worlds to be used as bases for attacks against human interests. The alien delegates looked at each other with obvious relief. They had expected demands for tribute, forced relocation, or submission to human rule. Instead, humanity was offering something that had not existed in the galaxy for centuries: protection without conquest. 3 days later, Elena stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly on the neutral world of Concordia. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from every known species, but the atmosphere was very different from the arrogant confidence that had characterized pre-war gatherings. The major powers sat separately now, no longer the unified force they had once been. Members of the Assembly, Elena began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. Humanity comes before you not as conquerors, but as neighbors who demand respect. We have proven that we can defend ourselves and our allies. We have also proven that we can strike at any target, anywhere in the galaxy, whenever we choose. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone in the hall knew about the attacks on Chrysalis Prime and Iron Gate. More importantly, they knew that those had been demonstrations rather than serious military operations. Humanity had shown just enough of their capabilities to make it clear that they were holding back far more. Humanity seeks peace, Elena continued, but we define peace as the absence of anyone trying to make us retreat. We define peace as the freedom for all species to live according to their own values and dreams. We hope this understanding prevents future misunderstandings. As she spoke, Elena noticed how the former triarchy powers avoided looking at each other. The Saurian ambassador kept his reptilian head turned away from the Veilwalker delegation. The Goliath representative sat with his 4 arms crossed defensively. The alliance that had once ruled most of the galaxy was truly dead. After the assembly session ended, Elena returned to her private quarters aboard the Prometheus. She was reviewing reports from human deep space monitoring stations when her aide knocked on the door. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," Lieutenant Commander Park said, holding a data tablet with obvious concern. Elena read the report with growing interest. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching from outside the galaxy. Energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. Ships that followed no known design principles. A fleet of unknown size heading toward inhabited space. Elena smiled grimly as she considered the implications. For millions of years, the galaxy had been dominated by species that thought of themselves as apex predators. They had grown comfortable in their superiority, confident that nothing could challenge their established order. Now something new was coming from the dark space between galaxies. Something that might make the Triarchy's old wars look like children's games. "Send a message to all human fleet commanders," Elena ordered. "Begin preparations for long-range reconnaissance missions. And send a diplomatic note to the Triarchy powers. Tell them we may need to discuss mutual defense agreements." The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's military capabilities. Soon they might discover something even more valuable: humanity's willingness to stand between the weak and the strong, no matter what emerged from the darkness beyond the stars. The galaxy had its apex predators. Now it had something better. Guardians who learned to hunt by being hunted, and who refused to let anyone else make the same mistake the Triarchy had made.